Here in Washington, the political and security landscape is shifting in a way that will be studied for years to come. The decision by President Donald Trump to take direct federal control over the Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia, accompanied by the deployment of hundreds of National Guard troops, is not merely a law enforcement adjustment. It is the deliberate exercise of constitutional authority in a city that holds a unique position within the American system. The district is not a state. It is a federal territory, and under certain statutes, the president has the authority to assert direct control over its security apparatus for a limited period. What is unfolding now must be understood as a case study in the intersection of law, security policy, and the political dynamics of 2025 America, with implications that extend far beyond the city limits of Washington, D.C. The announcement came with blunt rhetoric. The president described the city as overrun by crime, dirty, and in need of decisive intervention. He characterized local leadership as either unwilling or unable to confront the problem effectively. The choice of words and the timing were not accidental. This approach is consistent with a broader strategy that prioritizes visible displays of authority in response to disorder. The president is not simply ordering policy adjustments. He is signaling a governing philosophy rooted in deterrence through presence. The decision to mobilize approximately 800 National Guard personnel to place the Metropolitan Police under federal command and to integrate the Federal Bureau of Investigation into city patrol operations marks significant centralization of operational control. For Mayor Muriel Bowser, the response was measured but notable. She acknowledged the unprecedented nature of the action, yet refrained from outright opposition. Instead, she adopted a pragmatic posture, suggesting that an increase in law enforcement presence could yield positive effects if implemented responsibly. Her tone reflected the political reality of Washington, D.C. in this moment. The city government depends on federal cooperation in multiple domains, from infrastructure funding to public safety coordination, and direct confrontation with the White House could undermine those channels. By leaving open the possibility of constructive outcomes, the mayor is positioning herself to adapt to the situation rather than be defined by opposition to it. From a statistical perspective, the picture is more complex than the president's description suggests. Violent crime in Washington, D.C. declined by approximately 26% from 2024 to 2025, with specific categories such as robbery and certain forms of assault showing even sharper reductions. Yet those numbers do not erase the reality that the perception of safety is often shaped by high-profile incidents and visible disorder. In the political sphere, perception frequently outweighs data. Images of assaults, street robberies, and public disorder, amplified by social media and broadcast coverage, can generate a sense of crisis that statistical improvements cannot easily counter. In that environment, a federal intervention can be framed as both necessary and urgent, regardless of the underlying trends. The operational details of this deployment remain partially undefined. Early reports from the Department of Defense indicate that National Guard personnel will not carry firearms openly during routine patrols, but will have access to them in vehicles for rapid deployment if needed. This suggests that the mission is intended as a visible deterrent rather than an immediate tactical suppression force. Such a posture aligns with prior deployments in other cities, where the primary functions were to protect federal property, secure sensitive facilities, and serve as a rapid reaction capability should protests or unrest escalate. However, the integration of FBI agents into active patrols represents a notable escalation in federal engagement with local policing functions. It blurs the traditional line between municipal law enforcement and federal investigative agencies. The timing of the move has invited speculation. Crime rates have been declining, which raises the question of why the administration chose this moment for intervention. One possibility, often cited in private conversations among law enforcement professionals, is that the move reflects a broader political communication strategy. By focusing public attention on urban disorder, the administration can reinforce its law and order narrative while diverting attention from unrelated controversies. In this case, some have suggested that the intense media coverage of other ongoing investigations and legal matters may have influenced the timing. While such interpretations cannot be confirmed without direct evidence, the alignment of political advantage and policy action is a recurring feature of governance in all systems, democratic or otherwise. At the tactical level, the success of this operation will hinge on coordination between the federally appointed leadership and the existing command structure of the Metropolitan Police Department. Terrence Cole, the interim federal commissioner, will have to work closely with Chief Smith to ensure that jurisdictional overlap does not undermine operational effectiveness. This requires clear delineation of responsibilities, interoperable communication systems, and mutual trust between federal and local officers. Without these, the deployment risks becoming a symbolic show of force with limited impact on actual public safety. At the same time, the presence of additional personnel could allow local officers to focus on targeted crime suppression efforts, intelligence-driven operations, and community engagement initiatives that build public trust. From a governance perspective, the case of Washington, D.C. is unusual, but not without parallels. Around the world, central governments have periodically intervened in capital cities during periods of perceived instability. In France, national police and gendarmerie units are frequently deployed in Paris to supplement local forces during times of heightened tension. In Turkey, the central government maintains significant control over policing in Ankara, particularly during politically sensitive periods. The underlying rationale is the same. The stability of the capital is seen as essential to the stability of the state itself. In the American context, the federal government's constitutional authority over the district creates a legal pathway for such intervention, though it remains politically sensitive and rare. The next phase will reveal whether this move becomes a temporary measure or a precedent-setting shift in the balance between local autonomy and federal authority in the District of Columbia. If crime continues to decline, and if the intervention is perceived as effective, the administration could frame it as a model for other urban centers facing security challenges. If it generates friction, confusion, or public backlash, it could serve as a cautionary example of overreach. The strategic calculation appears to be that the benefits of demonstrating decisive action outweigh the risks of political resistance in a city that leans heavily toward the opposition party. In that sense, the move is as much about national messaging as it is about local security. Globally, analysts will note the parallels between this development and other cases where leaders have asserted direct control over security in politically symbolic urban areas. The capacity to rapidly project authority into the heart of the capital is a signal both to domestic audiences and to foreign observers of the central government's resolve and capability. For allies, it can be reassuring, an indication that the leadership will act decisively to maintain order. For adversaries, it serves as a reminder that the political core of the state is well defended and that challenges to its stability will be met with concentrated force. In the language of strategic signaling, this is not a local police matter. It is a demonstration of state capacity in the seat of national power. The coming weeks will test the durability of this posture. Operationally, the measure has a 30-day limit before congressional approval is required for continuation. Politically, it will be measured in terms of public perception and media framing. If residents perceive an improvement in safety, and if the operation avoids incidents that erode trust, it could bolster the administration's law and order credentials. If missteps occur, or if the move is interpreted primarily through a partisan lens, the political dividends could be limited. As with any exercise of concentrated authority, The outcome will be determined not only by the immediate tactical gains, but by the longer-term narrative that emerges. In sum, the federal takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police force under President Donald Trump is a multi-layered event. It is a constitutional exercise of federal authority, a strategic demonstration of resolve, a political maneuver with national implications, and a case study in the balance between perception